Hello and welcome to this final first look exploring session looking at The Guardian by Abraham Cowley. We're two-thirds of the way through. It's a chunky play, so we're going to be rattling through this relatively swiftly. We're going from Act 4, Scene 8. The scene divisions may vary because this is one of those plays where major entrances and exits denote scene breaks as well as a unit of action where everybody exits the stage. The play's got quite complicated. We may have an additional reader popping in midway through, but at the moment, reading Puny, Boy, and Old Truman is...
Gone old in the English Midlands with a little help from Phoebus behind me.
Aww. Reading Lucia, Tabytha, and Third Servant is...
Sarah Blake in The Hague, and that cat is adorable.
Reading Young Truman today is...
Aliki in Athens.
Reading Dogrel and Epilogue is...
Lynn in Salem, Oregon.
Reading Widow today is...
Susan Kidd in Covent Garden. I find it's best to say you're a widow at my age. It's the best. You're treated better.
Reading Captain Blade today is...
Mark in the Midwest United States.
Reading Aurelia and Second Servant today is...
Rachel in Canada.
And depending on what happens with possible other readers reading today, Cutter Servant / First Servant and William or John is...
Hi, I'm Greg and I'm near Stratford-on-Avon.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading stage directions and maybe John later on. I don't know. Janet might turn up as well. Who knows? So without further ado, Act 4, Scene 8. Enter Cutter, Dogrel, and Puny disguised.
Methinks I look now like a twopenny apple pie. I know not how.
John? What's your name, John? I forgot your name, John.
What do you mean the name that was given me at the font?
Font. I do not remember that font. Let me see my scroll.
Read.
There's never such a town in Africa as Font. I do not remember Font.
Oh, your memory, sir, is as short as an ephemerides.
Did I not warn you, John, of such strange... What do you call them? Here's for that word.
Right.
I have forgot what word 'twas. For the word, I mean.
Pox take you, Dogrel. You strike too hard.
Thou'rt stacked well, I see. Well, had thee to the Golden Lane, and there thou shalt do a king, or else some god in thine own clothes.
When a dead man from Orcus I retract, well may you see that to the life I act.
Did I not warn you of these, what do you call them? Faith, I'll be even, master.
And strikes him.
Very well, John. These be good memorandums for your master.
I should be angry with you for it, but I quite forgot it.
Let's see your scroll. Memorandum for my house. I have a house in Fleet Street with a garden to it. My daughter is called Lucia, a handsome fair maid with red cheeks, black eyes and brown hair, and a little dimple in her chin. My brother's name, to whom I left the charge of my daughter, is Blade. A most excellent note indeed. What have we here? Memorandum concerning my estate. What of this dump thing? No. Take heed, Dogrel. The captain's a shrewd fellow. He'll examine you more strictly than the Spanish Inquisition can.
Pish, if he posed me in anything, my memory's weak. I quite forgot it.
And then your voice, I fear. And then...
Tax take you, Cutter. A casuist would not find so many scruples.
Oh, devil's in it. I shall never do this part. I know not how to speak and not be witty.
Well, look to it, gallants. If the captain find you out, he'll abuse you most unmercifully. I'm now for Tabytha.
Oh, the captain abused me. By this day, I'll jeer with him with my hands bound behind me. Come away, master.
Aye, John, but which way did we come?
By this way, master.
Then that way we must go. Is not my house in Fleet Street, John? I thought you had said that it was in Fleet Street.
Yes, so it is, sir.
Truly, I thought you said so. Come away, John.
And they exit. And that's the end of the act. It's a shame we didn't cram that in the end of the last session, actually. But it's quite a nice one to get us back in the zone. as a scene reminding us of this disguise plot that's going on, where they're going to try and pretend that the father to Lucia is come back. And I love this because it's all about it's actors' business, isn't it? It's this whole thing of, okay, what's but it's not quite learn your part. It's sort of learn your role kind of thing. It's more like the kind of thing you're doing when you're doing improvised dinner theatre or something, where you've got to make sure you've got your character notes right, and there are some specific details you've got to get down, and I know not how to speak and not be witty. Sure, mate. Sure, mate. Yeah. If you say that about yourself, you might not be right. Lynn.
Yeah, this would be really fun, but it requires some skillful actors because they slip in and out of character, and that has to be clear to the audience when they're doing it. Then when Dogrel has that moment where he speaks a rhymed couplet, he's Dogrel again, and not pretending to be the probably dead brother, whose name I can't remember.
Yeah,
but
I don't think the name. Yeah. No, absolutely. And this is again where with the iteration of the script that we've got here, which has been largely unmediated by a modern edition. This is pretty much straight from the original printing. Means that it's full of absences of, some asides, some moments where they're role playing as opposed to in the scene. So yeah, there's quite a lot actually here to unpack. I mean, this is a play all the way through where I'm going, I could spend a day on one of those scenes, just unpicking all of the meanings. And that would be great fun for us. Whether it would be fun for an audience at the other end is a slightly different matter. But I think it would be an excellent exercise in both acting, performance workshop, but also just in that historical unpacking. That I think that actually would make a really interesting, episode of the podcast. Frankly,
yes, please.
If only I ran a podcast, that would be so difficult to
maybe
organize.
You should start that.
Yeah, I should get that going.
And this feels like a company play. This is for actors that know each other well, that know each other's skills, comedy things. They're making in jokes to each other as much as to the audience. And it's very enjoyable to be part of because of that.
Yeah, and
because we're like that.
Yeah, it's really plugged into the cultural moment of the time. These are people who are throwing in references to plays and ballads and popular culture that is there. And okay, some of them we're probably not recognizing because we're not, but there's a lot of bits where I'm going, that's see what you did there. But they're not elitist references in the way that most of the time I'm not sitting there feeling like someone's rubbing my nose in their face, learning in my face thing. That was a sentence that went horribly wrong. Never mind. Greg.
I was just going to say, you said this was first performed in Cambridge. I'm assuming it wasn't a college play, but it was. It feels, if it was, it doesn't feel like the normal one. As you say, you're not feeling like you're getting loads of references that your audience just wouldn't get unless they were a member of the colleges and knew this stuff. This is a wonderfully pedestrian world that anyone can recognize, even if it's Cambridge people. They're going to recognize people that are on the street. They're going to recognize people they see in the taverns. It's a world we all see, and actually, I think even nowadays we might not get the references, but we all know these people. We all know people like this. We've all met them.
Sometimes in a fashion that leaves us quite depressed. But I'm very unclear on the precise auspice because yes, it's performed in Cambridge, it's performed before royalty, but I don't actually have a reference on who's performing it and why. And I am assuming it is a university play in that sense, but it's probably very well organized if they're doing it before a member of the royal family for that particular instance. But no, generally this is an area I don't have much background on, so I can't really answer that question fully. And perhaps we shouldn't even try at this stage, because I'm sure someone will tell us in the comments. Act 5, Scene 1. Let's move on. Enter Cutter and just before we came on mic, Sarah was just reminding us that Cutter had a subplot, and it looks like we're about to get it. That's nice. This is something happened at the beginning of the play. Enter Cutter and Tabytha.
And the vision told me, Sister Tabytha, that this same day, the 12th of March, in the year of our grace, 1641, at this same holy place, by a holy man, we two, who are both holy vessels, should be joined together in the holy band of matrimony.
My mother will be angry. I'm afeard.
Oh, your mother will rejoice. I would not for a word that you should do it, but that we were commanded from above. Yea, I may say commanded. For to do things without a divine warrant is like unto the building of a fire without a bottom cake.
Aye, God knows that it is.
Very well, sister. Now, when my eyes were open in the morning, I awoke, for it was morning tide, and my eyes were opened, and I looked into my pockets, for my breeches lay upon a joint stool not far from the bedside, and in my pockets, even made with leather, I looked, I say, and found... What did I find? Ah, marry, a license written with ink and pen. Where did I find? Oh, maybe in no other place in the broadly classification that I had wrapped and folded up long ways, and even in that very pocket.
I would my mother knew it, but I'll not resist, God willing.
There is a godly teacher within that never was defiled with a cap and surplice, never wore that gambol with the hood. Even he shall join our hands. Shall we enter, sister?
Brother, I'll not resist.
And exeunt. So, a short little scene where Cutter talks Tabytha round to this. It looks like he's getting what he wants. So this indicates, of course, that this is the 5-act structure is accurate in the sense that there would have been a mini interval between Act 4 and Act 5 to trim the candles and set up so that Cutter can exit and immediately come on in the next scene. So that's not a structural error. That is a nature of. It's a nice short scene, also just to get us going. I think after that mini break, a short ad break. You know, think of it as a television film or something with specific places for adverts. Any thoughts on Cutter and Tabytha? It's been so long since they've interacted. Did they even interact earlier, or did he just mention in passing he was going to do this?
They did a little bit, but it was like blink and you miss it.
Yeah,
because I was playing Cutter in the first session, and yeah, he had like a couple of lines, but barely anything at all.
I'm just wondering whether we move this scene somewhere else because it's short, and obviously for a modern production we don't have an interval there. So I'm sort of looking at this as, where can we put this scene if we're keeping it? We could cut this plot line, of course. It's entirely possible. I don't know whether the rest of the play needs it. It may be useful for the denouement. Susan.
I don't know why, but Charlie's aunt came to my mind. I thought there was a marvellous pairing there between Greg and Sarah, and it was most entertaining. And definitely Charlie's aunt.
Okay. Lynn. Muted at present.
At the end of the previous scene, when Cutter says, "I am now for Tabytha," he could leave then, and then there's a few more lines before the scene ends. So that could prevent your violation of the law of re-entry. Just have him leave just before the scene is over, so you don't have to worry about rearranging.
Well, yeah, that is also a possibility. We may find that we could put it after the I don't know what happens in the next scene or the progression. There may be just a slight tweak that we can do to just make that flow. But yeah, you're right. You can probably just about get away with it with a music cue and an early exit. Yes, I suppose that technically he doesn't have an exit marked, but he could literally exit at that point, couldn't he? I am in fact going to provisionally put in square brackets exit here, because I quite like that. I'll put a question mark next to it though. I'm not going to say it's authoritative. Okay, excellent. Act 5, Scene 2. Oh no, Sarah.
Well, I was just going to say I'd probably move it anyway because there's been so many complicated strands to this play with like different people in disguise. I would move this earlier in the play because otherwise the audience are going to have completely forgotten about it.
This is where I'm starting to go. Maybe this is where one of the cuts come in because this is a long play that inevitably would need trimming on some level, and maybe this is an easy. But it might not. It might not, and it may, because I say it may add to the confusion in the final. The denouement. If we're going for a final scene where everybody's in disguise and things are unveiled, then this might be another little reminding everyone that it's here at this stage might actually turn out to be a rather nice element to do. Alan has joined the room. I will confirm what parts you still are reading in a moment. Aliki.
So you could also just put in a little bit of dumb show, have them walking out together, Cutter in Puritan gear in the background at some point in the middle of the play, just to remind us that it's there.
Yeah. There's always that temptation. There's always a dumb show option, isn't there? Okay, well let's find out. We're going to go into Act 5, Scene 2, which is young Truman and Aurelia. So I will do some confirming of things in the chat for other people. But Act 5, Scene 2 looks like a self-contained thing. Enter young Truman and Aurelia.
And must we marry then?
It appears so by the story.
Why will you marry me? What is there in me that may deserve your liking? I shall be the most ill-favored, melancholy bridegroom that ever took a melting maid to his bed. The faculties of my soul are all untuned, and every glory of my spreading youth is turned into a strange and sudden winter. You cannot love me, sure?
No, by my troth, sir.
No, nor I you. Why should we marry then? 'Twere a mere folly, were it not, Aurelia?
Nay, ask our parents why. But, sir, they say 'tis the best marriage where like is joined to like. Now we are a very even match. For neither I love you nor you love me, and 'tis 10 to 1. But we shall beget children that will love neither of us.
Nay, by my soul, I love you, but alas, not in that way that husbands love their wives. I cannot play, nor toy, nor kiss, nor do, I know not what. And yet I was a lover, a true lover.
Alack a day, sir.
'Twas then methought the greatest happiness to sit and talk and look upon my mistress, or if she was not by, to think upon her. Then every morning next to my devotion, and sometimes too, forgive me heaven, before it, she slipped into my fancy, and I took it as a good omen for the following day. It was a pretty, foolish kind of life, an honest, harmless vanity. But now the fairest face moves me no more than snow or lilies when I see him and pass by. And I as soon shall deeply fall in love with the fresh scarlet of an eastern cloud as the red lips and cheeks of any woman. I do confess, Aurelia, thou art fair and very lovely, and I think good-natured.
Faith, sir, I would not willingly be a man if they are all like you.
And prithee now, Aurelia, tell me truly, are any women constant in their vows? Can they continue a whole week, a month, and never change their faith? Oh, if they could, they would be excellent things. Nay, ne'er dissemble. Are not their lusts unruly, insolent, and as commanding as their beauties are? Are their tears true and solid when they weep?
Sure, Master Truman, you hadn't slept of late. If we be married tonight, what will you do for sleep?
Why, do not married people use to sleep?
Yes, yes, alas, good innocence.
They have a scurvy time of it if they do not. But we'll not be as other people are. We'll find out some new, handsome way of love, some kind of way that few shall imitate, but all admire. For 'tis a sordid thing that lust should dare to insinuate itself into the marriage bed. We'll get no children. The worst of men and women can do that. Besides, too, if our issue should be female, they would all learn to flatter and dissemble. They'd all deceive with promises and vows some simple man, and then turn false and kill him. Would they not do it, Aurelia?
Our sex is little beholding to you, sir. I would your mother were alive to hear you. But pray, Master Truman, what shall we do when we are married?
Why, we'll live lovingly together. Sometimes we'll sit and talk of excellent things and laugh at all the nonsense of the world. Sometimes we'll walk together into the fields. Sometimes we'll pray and read, and sometimes eat, and sometimes sleep, and then at last we'll die and go to heaven together. 'Twill be dainty.
We may do this, methinks, and never marry for the business.
It's true, we might do so, but since our parents are resolved upon it, in such a trifle, let them have their humour. My father sent me here to compliment and keep a prating here and play the fool. I cannot do it. What should I do, Aurelia? What do they used to say?
Sure, sir. You knew when you were a suitor to my cousin Lucia.
Aye, but those days are past. And I have now forgot what manner of man a lover is. I was one then, I'm sure on't. Oh, that Lucia! That Lucia was so wonderful a creature. There was a cheek, a lip, a nose, an eye. Did you observe her eye, Aurelia?
Yes, yes, sir. You were wont to sit on all day and look upon the pretty babies in it.
It was as glorious as the eye of heaven, like the soul's eye, dispersed through everything. And then her hands of liquid ivory, did she but touch her lute, the pleasingest harmony then upon the earth when she herself was silent. The subtle motion of her flying fingers taught music a new art, to take the sight as well as the ear.
Aye, aye, sir. You had best go look at her out and marry her.
Prithee, be not angry, good Aurelia. I do not say she is more fair than thou art. Yet if I did, no, but I will not say so. Only I strive to cherish the remembrance of one I loved so well. Now I think on't, I'll beg a favour of you. You'll laugh at me, I know, when you have heard me, but I'll beg it. Prithee, be veiled, as Lucia was of late. Cast such a silken cloud upon thy beauty for this one day. I'd fain marry you so. 'Tis an odd foolish humour, I confess, but love and grief may be allowed sometimes a little innocent folly.
Well, I'll obey your humour. Pray walk in there. I'll only dress myself and wait upon you.
And we'll be married very privately, none but ourselves. It will be best, Aurelia.
Exit young Truman.
Why, here's a husband for a wench of clouts. May I never laugh again if his companies has not made me duller than ale and buttered cakes would have done. I marry him. The old men must excuse me. I'll sooner choose a fellow that lies bedrid and can do nothing o' nights but cough. Well, if I don't teach him what 'tis a wench that has wit, may my husband beat me when I have one, and I sit still and cry. I like this very well. It shall be so. Jane, come hither, Jane.
Act 5, Scene 3. Enter Aurelia. Enter to Aurelia, Lucia.
Oh, Jane, that's well. Little think you what good's towards you. 'Tis that you have wished for, I dare say, these 5 years. A good, handsome husband. What think you of young Truman?
I think everything that makes a man complete and his wife happy, the richest glories of mind and body, and not their ill companion, fortune too, are reconciled and married all in him. And I commend the wisdom of your stars that join you two together.
Nay, saith thou shalt e'en have him, thyself, for better or worse. He's too handsome indeed, unless he could make better use of his beauty. For, by my troth, wench, I'm afraid thou'lt find thy pillow as good as a bedfellow.
I pray do not mock your servant.
Thou shalt see, Jane, I do not. Come in, wench, and I'll tell thee all my plot.
And they exit. Okay, I am going to stand up for young Truman here. I'm going to do it primarily because of what the effect of this scene is designed to do. So this is Aurelia's got what she wanted. She's going to marry him, and he just keeps talking about his ex. And it's like she's trying to say, when we get married, what should we do? Sexy time, sexy time. I think we'll sit and pray. This has such wonderful potential as a comic scene. And I think this is one of the problems is I think if we're sitting here and we're reading this as the first time, you've got this guy who is just this god-awful wet blanket who never stops talking. But that's the point of the scene, is that he's this god-awful wet blanket who you just can't stand. And admittedly, there is a danger there that he'll just keep talking and we'll lose the will to live as well. But I think the basic seed of what this scene is doing is actually very strong and really quite fun, because it's actually, the scene isn't about him. And this is the thing that where reading it like this is a disadvantage. It's actually about what Aurelia is doing. And just her constant disappointment that she goes against him and then, oh, for God's sake, what is wrong with you? And then we have this little tag scene at the end with Lucia who's doing the same a similar thing. But also we have plot, which is, could you dress up like my ex? But more importantly, can you wear the veil? And once again, this veil is obviously going to have an important plot significance, as it already has. So just a note for costuming. The costume which goes with the veil, this is a very important bit of costuming, and you've got to get it right. You've got to make it twice for two different actors. I've seen various hands. I'll go to Lynn first, then Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, I have not been super in love with this play up to now, but I must admit that this sort of bed trick into tricking the people that are in love into sleeping with each other, this is a very clever version of that device. It is really clever, I think.
Sarah.
Yeah, so I'm assuming then when Aurelia says at the end, come in, wench, and I'll tell thee all my plot, she's going to put Jane, the servant, under the veil and get her to marry. So Lucia's going to end up married to young Truman anyway.
That
Is
seems
this
to be
where
where
we're going?
it's going. That seems to be
Right.
where it's going at. So it's like, it's this. I'd say, as Liv was saying, it's this sort of very clever sort of inversion of what you're expecting from a bed trick, and actually, it's really quite nicely done for what it's doing there. And again, we're in Act 5. We're technically there's still quite a few pages to go, but we are in the final act. So all of the things are now hopefully heading towards confusion and tidy up. Aliki.
So earlier in the play, Aurelia had dressed up in the same veils as Lucia, and he still doesn't know it. Truman, still doesn't know it. So it's quite nice that it's going to be mirrored now, sort of double mirrored in a way.
Yeah, I think there is really interesting structure here. Actually, I'd quite like to unpick the overall structure of the play now, because I actually think there's something very detailed and thought out. Actually, it's gone over here. I wonder if this is sort of leaning into that kind of comedy structure that Johnson was quite keen on as well. He has name-checked Johnson twice in the play, so I suspect that maybe he's a fan. So anyway, let's move on. Act 5, Scene 4. Enter Blade and Servant.
Well, sir, is the cook doing according to my directions?
Yes, sir. He's very hard at his business in the kitchen. He's been swearing and cursing at the scullions at least this hour, sir.
'Tis such an over-wasted coxcomb. Another wedding dinner would make him a St. Lawrence. Bid him to be sure the venison be well seasoned.
Truth, sir, I dare not speak to him now, unless I put on the armour in the hall. He'd like to spit at me next to a goose for saying that he looked like an ox that was roasted whole at St. James's Fair.
You have invited all the guests to dinner you talked of?
Yes, sir.
And the windows round-headed kindred? Widows?
Yes, sir.
They'll come in their guarded petticoats, will they not? You should have bid 'em eat no porridge at home to seem more mannerly here at dinner. The widow will be angry at their charges, but I'll please her at night. Go bid the butler look to his plate and not be drunk till he sees it all in again. Who's at the door there?
Indeed. Act 5, Scene 5. Enter to Blade Dogrel and Puny, disguised.
Tracy, you know as well as I. Such a charitable beast come to be dressed here. Shall I call us cook, sir?
Why, this is my house here, John. I little thought to have seen my house in Fleet Street again. Where's my brother Blade?
They call me Captain Blade.
Is this he, John? Let me see. A proper burly man with a whitish beard, a quick eye, and a nose inclining to red. 'Tis true. Save you, good brother. Did you expect me here? Did you, brother? Stay, let me see. How many years ago is it we went from home?
He's now just 7, sir.
7. Methinks I was here but yesterday. How's the, what do you call him? What do you call it?
Time, sir.
Time. What was it I was saying? Oh, I was telling you, brother, that I had quite forgot you. Was I not telling him so, John?
By my troth, sir, we are both quits then, for I forgot you too. Why, you were dead 5 years ago.
Was I so? I quite forgot it. John, was I dead 5 years ago? My memory fails me very much of late.
Oh, we were worse than dead, I'm sure. We were taken by a barbarous kind of nation, and they're made slaves these 5 years. John Coffey. I was poor John indeed. I'm sure they fed us 3 whole years with nothing but acorns and water. We looked like wicker bottles.
How, Sarah? Did your master look like a wicked boatman?
Strikes him.
Nay, I remember what you said we looked like. Did we look like, what do you call them?
Where did they take you prisoners?
Nay, ask John. He can tell you, I warrant you. 'Twas in, tell him, John, where it was.
In Guinea, sir.
By what countrymen were you taken?
Why, they were called, I know not what they called them. 'Twas a kind of odd name, but John can tell you.
Slight, who I, sir? Do you think I can remember all things?
'Tis in my book here. I remember the name of any country under the sun.
I know their names, sir, well enough, but I only tried my master's memory. They're called Tartarians.
How say you? What were they?
Tartarians, sir.
Aye, though, these are the men.
How, John? Why, all the world man lies between them. They live up in the north.
The north?
Aye, the very north, John.
That's true indeed. These are another nation of the Tartarians that live by us.
Well, how escaped you, John, at last?
Well, faith, sir, tell you the truth, for I love not to tell a lie, the king's daughter fell in love with me, and for my sake they're set us free. My master has it all in his book. It's a fine story.
Strange. In what ship did you come back?
What ship? Why, it was called a thing that swims. How do you call it?
What, the mermaid?
No. Let me see.
What was it? The Triton?
No. It swims, I tell you.
The dolphin?
No. I have forgot what 'twas.
What say you, John?
I, sir. Oh, God, my master, sir, can tell as well as I.
He says he has forgot.
Oh, 'tis his pleasure to say so, sir. He may say what he pleases. Plague upon him. You can't conceive the misery we have passed, sir.
Well, brother, I'll make bold to ask one question more of you. Where did you leave your will when you went away?
Life, now he's posed again.
I'll tell you presently, brother. Let me see. Memorandum for my will. Left to my brother Blade the whole charge of my estate. Why, what did you ask me, brother?
In what place you left your will?
Oh, that was it. Indeed, you're in the right. 'Twas the very thing you asked me, and yet see how quickly I forgot it. My memory is short. Alas, God help me.
This is no answer to my question yet.
'Tis true indeed. What was your question, pray?
Where you left your will?
Oh, good Lord, I had forgot you asked me this. I had forgotten, in faith. Law, that I had. You'll pardon my infirmity. I hope, brother, for alas, I forgot what I was going to say to you, but I was saying something, I'm sure.
Did you not know us, sir? Prithee, tell's true.
No, by this light. Why, you've grown as black as the chimney stock.
That's the nature of the country where we lived. Oh, the stories I shall tell you. And how does Nell and little Bonnie Bess, are they as merry grigs as e'er they were?
No, Bess, poor wench, is married to a chandler, but she's true blue still, right as my leg, I warrant you.
What is it, John? What was I going to say to my brother?
I know not, sir. It was not about your daughter.
Aye, my daughter. What do you call her?
Lucia, sir.
'Tis true indeed, my daughter Lucia, brother.
Pray walk into the parlor. I'll come to you presently and tell you all.
Well, John put me in mind of my daughter Lucia. A plague on your Tartarians.
I know your, what do you call them?
Sly Tartarians.
And exuent Dogrel and Puny.
If these be rogues, they are as impudent as mountebanks and jugglers. And if I find them to be rogues, as I see nothing yet to the contrary, how I will exercise my rogues. The tyranny of a new beetle over a beggar shall be nothing to mine. Come hither, Will. What think you of these two fellows?
Yes, sir, I know not. But if you think he be not my old master, I'll beat him worse than the Tartarians did.
No, let's try him first. Thou was wont to be a very precious knave, and a great actor too, a very Roscius. Didst not thou once act the clown in Musidorus?
No, sir, but I played the bear there.
The bear? Why, that's a good part. Thou art an actor then, I'll warrant thee. The bear's a well-penned part. And you remember my brother's humor, don't you? They have almost hit it.
Yes, sir, I know the shortness of my master's memory. He would forget sometimes to pay me my wages till he was put in mind of it.
Well said. I'll dress thee within in his own chamber, and all the servants shall acknowledge you. But who shall do trusty John?
Oh, Ralph the butler, sir. He's an old actor, sir. Has played a king, he says. I've heard him speak a play extempore in the buttery, sir.
Ah, Ralph! Excellent Ralph! Incomparable Ralph! Ralph against the world! Come away, William. I'll give you instructions with him. It must be done in the twinkling of an eye.
And they exit, and wasn't that a fun scene? Okay, there. Not only do we get a reference to Musidorus, and it does help if you know the play, because it's absolutely right. There is a clown and there is a bear, and they literally meet. It's how the play opens, and it's delightful, and therefore we found already a play we need to do in rep with this for no readily apparent reason. But it was a play that was revived a lot with additions and almost certainly in print. So it's the kind of thing that people would get. And Mark may have a connection with this play on some level.
Yes, I may be currently working on it, performing in a couple weeks from when this is recorded. But yes, it's great because the clown is a fantastic role. That he says, "You played the clown, right?" And he says, "No, I played the bear." And the bear, of course, doesn't have any lines. Good stuff.
Oh, I'm sure the bear had whoever's playing the bear comes up with many lines.
We do it extempore, for it is nothing but roaring.
Oh, you do this when I'm away from my usual setup. Naughty,
Growl.
naughty. I'll go to Susan.
I just love the way this is on the page. This writer can do it all. It's like an old coward, playing those coward scenes. There's short lines and long lines and middling lines. This is a fantastic writer. Or else, it's from some players who really know how to spar. I mean, just look at it on the page. It's fantastic. Short lines. It makes for huge comedy.
Yeah, and it's this gambit. The basic idea of the thing is, how are we going to get through this con by pretending that you have terrible memory? And it means you can basically, it's a license to print money. And just that line, John, was I dead 5 years ago?
It's funny.
I'm sure you were dead. Oh, why dead? What was the thing? And so many just little things, and it sort of takes it. I was expecting there was a potential payoff that they didn't hit, and I was sort of wondering when they're talking about the boat and it swims, and I was expecting that there'd be a witty final iteration of that when they'd come up with something, and they didn't. It's the one bit of the script where I was going, I was hope. Yeah,
three things.
Yeah,
the mermaids, the dolphin, and bang.
Yeah. It was like they slightly couldn't think of a payoff at that point.
There has to be something dumb, like I don't.
It almost needs Blade to just say the bullshit, or something, something like that.
The bullshit.
No, it wasn't that one. Because of course he's not really buying any of it, and the servant's there, and so so it's setting up another scene to follow on from this to put them under the test. So it's setting up really nice stuff, and it's just as an individual scene, it's just a joy. Greg,
I was just going to say I love the way it's setting up John. this servant John. As the sort of, what was it? He's an old ham actor. He's retired now, and I'm just thinking. Ultimately, I'm assuming he appears, but it's that lovely moment, and his name's been mentioned so often. It's just that lovely. Whether or not it was an actor that'd be there a few years, who knows? But it's a lovely sort of set.
Selwyn. It's Selwyn in Noises Off. Where's Selden? Where's Selden? He's with the whiskey bottle.
Well, it's just, yes, I heard him speak a play extempore in the buttery, sir. I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have. After a few, every week. Sarah, then Lynn.
Yeah, I was just going to say, all of a sudden we seem to have bounced back to that energy that we had at the very beginning of the play. I mean, nearly all of the first session was like this, and it was an absolute riot. And then I don't know kind of what's happened. It was almost like the plot's getting in the way of the writing almost, because not that I haven't enjoyed it, and not that there haven't been some really good lines, because there have been, but this, all of a sudden, this rhythm, this energy, we're right back where we were. And I'm just so pleased that we've got back to this.
I think it's straightforward. There's nothing at stake. This is the problem. The play introduced stakes. And it slightly killed the humour, because suddenly people are being horrible and it has an impact, or they're saying something that's sort of witty but it's a bit dark, really. And suddenly you go, oh, that's not really much fun. And now we've got some people turning up pretending to be some guy, and it's just like, who cares? It's fun. They're idiots. And so suddenly it's fun again. So I think there's almost the reverse of what I usually do in a production is turn around and go, okay, how can we reduce the stakes? Because we don't need stakes for this play. It actually kills the play stone dead. So that's an interesting thought for the end. Lynn.
Yeah, Sarah's right. It dragged in the middle. Unfortunately, I suspect that the audience at the time thought that scene where the young men are leveling abuse at poor Lucia is every bit as funny as we find this. So for them, it wasn't a change in tone or instincts. But anyway, what I was just going to comment that someone, Cutter, I think, told these guys, look, Blade is going to grill you. Get your story together. Like, nah, we're fine. Come here completely unprepared.
And it's just every time as well, he just turns and so what was the answer? And the other one's going, stop asking me.
Good improv. Good improv approach.
Yeah, absolutely. Pass it on to the other guy. Okay, still quite a lot of text to get through. Let's crack on. Act 5, Scene 6. Enter Cutter, Tabytha, and Boy.
Now, Mistress Tabytha Cutter, let me kiss thee.
Pray God my mother be not angry.
Oh, think not on thy mother, her spouse. I tell thee, spouse, thou'lt be a mother thyself within these 9 months. Come to my bed, my dear, come to my bed. For the pleasant pain and the loss with gain is the loss of a maidenhead.
Is that a psalm, brother husband, that you sing?
No, a short ejaculatory consider, boy, sorry, other things within that I spoke for.
Yes, sir.
Go back, come in. Don't go fetch him in. Sorry.
Exit boy.
Come, Tabytha, let's be merry. Canst thou sing a catch, wench? Well said, boy.
Enter boy with a hat and a feather, a broad band, a sword and a belt and a periwig.
What do you mean, brother husband? I hope you'll not turn roarer.
What? Do these clothes befit Queen Tabytha's husband? This hat with a chimney crown and brims no broader than a moderate hat band? Give me the periwig, boy. What? Shall Empress Tabytha's husband go as if his head was scalded, or with the seam of a shirt for a band? Shall I walk without a sword, and dare not to quarrel in the streets and thrust men from the wall? Will the fiddlers be here presently, boy?
Yes, sir.
Pish! I can't abide these doings. Are you mad? Oh, Lord, what will my mother say? There shall come no fiddlers here.
Be peaceable, gentle Tabytha. They will not bring the organs with them. I say be peaceable. He vision bid me do thus. Wilt thou resist the vision?
And these be your visions? Little did I think 'twere. Is this your religion and praying? Which of all the prophets wore such a map about his head, or such a sheet about his neck? What shall I do? I am undone.
What shalt thou do? Why, thou shalt dance and sing, drink and laugh. Thou shalt go with thy breasts open and thy hair braided. Thou shalt put fine black stars upon thy face and have great bobs for thy ears. Now, if thou dost begin to look rustily, I'll have thee paint thy face like the whore of Babylon.
Oh, that ever I was born to see this day!
What? Dost thou wait, Queen Dido? Thou shalt have sack to drive away thy sorrow. Come hither, boy. Fetch me a quart of canary.
Sit boy.
Thou shalt see I'll be a loving husband to thee. The vision, Tabytha, bid me give you drink. We must obey these visions. Sing, Tabytha. Cry on your wedding day. 'Tis ominous. Come to my bed, my dear. Come to my bed for the pleasant pain.
Enter boy with wine.
Oh, well, thou come, boy. Well said. Fill a brimmer. Nay, fuller yet. Have it out fuller. So, here's to the lady spouse, to our good sport tonight.
Drink it yourself, if you will. I'll not touch it.
By this hand thou shalt pledge me, seeing the vision said so. Drink, or I'll take a coach and carry thee to play immediately.
I can't abide.
You drink.
Why, this will clear thy heart, wench. Second and husband, wench, are both comfortable things. Have it you again.
I'll pledge you no more. Not I.
Yeah. Take this glass and take it off too, or else I'll swear 100 oaths to a breathing time here.
Well, you're the strangest man.
Why, this is right now. Nay, off with it. Ooh, so, but this vision said whatsoever we left in the same wine would turn to poison straight. There, here's to you, Tabytha, once again. 'Tis the vision's will.
What? Must I drink again, then? Well, I'll not resist. You're such another brother husband.
Drinks.
There's a whole one now. Come to my bed, my dear. Come to my bed. How was't? 'Twas a pretty one.
Oh, divine Tabytha. Here comes the fiddlers too. Strike up the rogues.
What? Oh, must we dance now? Is not that the fashion? I could have danced the Coranto when I was a girl. The Coranto's a curious dance.
We'll dance out the disease of the tarantula. But first, we'll have a health to my pretty Tabytha.
I'll begin myself. Here, duck. Here's to all that love us.
A health, you eternal scrapers. Sound a health. Bravely done, Tabytha. What things now art thou of thy mother?
Think for my mother. I'll be a mother myself. Come, duckling. Shall we go home?
Go home. Oh, the bride and the bridegroom. Go. Oh, we'll dance home. For a squeakers that way and be hanged. So, brave Tabytha. Excellent Empress Tabytha. On you, rogues.
They go out dancing with the music before them. Okay. I don't know whether it was Greg's interpretation or the text, but I found that quite disturbing. I'm sure it was intended to be funnier than it came across as, but that felt really quite wrong. Lynn, then Susan.
I guess I'm just against the grain this whole time. I found it pretty funny myself. And I just wanted to congratulate Greg and Sarah for cold reading that and getting it right on the hitting the nail right on the head. The way Tabytha's resistance. I hope things work out for her because she's basically an okay person. But I laughed.
Yeah. Susan, then Aliki.
I'm afraid there is a big danger that the servant will steal the whole scene. If I saw that, don't you think, Donald? I mean, just a couple of lines and then coming in at that. I mean, that completely.
It's always yes, sir.
Everything.
Always, yeah.
Yes, that was. Yes, yeah. Just as an actor, I thought, oh God, that's brilliant. That's that, and he's verbal diarrhea. Yeah. Naughty.
Aliki.
I mean, yeah, there is a fair bit of have a Madeira to it. But you could, I don't remember what Tabytha was like because I wasn't here for the beginning. It's possible that you could play her in a way that made this not bad, that really made it as if she really was very unhappy being a Puritan all along and fancied him something rotten, and it could work.
Yes, I think, as I say, there is this question of the way you tell them. You can make this unbelievably sinister, or you can make it quite playful. And I think one of the problems is actually there's so little in the play of their interactions that it's actually quite difficult to decide, within the context of their relationship, what this is. Because we had the previous scene, pretty much their only other scene so far with them together. Where again, there's a slightly coercive element to what he's doing. He is lying constantly to her. So yeah, there are all sorts of questions there. And it's a question whether this is going to actually connect with any other tissue with the rest of the play. And there is that question of, okay, easy cuts. Is this still an easy cut that potentially could be quietly dropped? But anyway, let us move on and make a decision. We don't have to make a decision at all. We can have conflicting opinions. That's entirely allowed and fine and actually interesting. Maybe authors, we all agreed. Act 5, Scene 7. Enter Blade, Dogrel, and Puny.
I must not be fobbed off thus about my daughter. I remember not your excuse. But John can tell well enough, I warrant you.
I've told you the plain truth. You'll not be angry, I hope.
I shall have cause to be angry, I fear. Did I not leave her to his charge, John? Brother, I tell you.
I must not answer, brother.
I know you put me out that I might forget what I said to you before. Remember, John, I'll be as cunning as you're crafty. Remember, John. How now? What's the matter?
Enter servant.
Oh, my old master's come. He's lighted now at the door with his man John. He's asking for you. He longs to see you. My master, my old master.
This fellow's mad.
You won't believe me. Go in and see, sir. He's not so much altered. You'll quickly know him. I knew him as soon as I saw him. Pray, sir, go in.
Exeunt blade and servant.
Why, this is strange.
If this be true, what course should we take, Dogrel? I begin to shake like a plum tree leaf.
We'll shift some way or other, I warrant you.
How, Dogrel? Prithee, how?
Let the worst come we can be but whipped, or burnt in the hand at the most.
Oh, our best way would be to hang ourselves. Slide, here's John.
And enter John and 2 or 3 servants.
Give me thy handy faith, boy. Is possible thou shouldst be alive still?
Ah, rogue, art thou come, faith? I have a pottle of sack to welcome thee.
Why, you'll not look upon your poor friends, John? Give me thy goals, John. How hast thou done this great while?
John.
Ah, yes, Greg, you are still John, yes.
All right, that's fine. Thank you. I thank you all heartily for your love. Thank you with all my heart. Or what? My old bedfellow Robin? How dost do? When shall we steal 8 for cocks again? Do you remember Robin?
A murrain take you. You'll never forget your roguery.
A murrain take you all. That was your plot and be hanged. Would I were Puny the wit again.
Accursed fate.
Come, John, let's go to the buttery and be merry. Ralph longs to see you, I'm sure.
How does Ralph? Good, honest Ralph? Oh, that Ralph's as honest a fellow, though I say it myself. I love him with all my heart, Lord, that I do. And there's no love lost, I dare say, for him.
Ah, my masters, will you go in? I'll prevail with the cook for a slice or 2 of beef, and we'll have a cup of stingo, the best in the cellar.
Well said. Still to the back, still? That was your word, you know. My master's coming in. Go, I'll follow you straight.
Make haste, good John, for I can't stay.
Exeunt servants.
Here's a company of as honest fellows as a man would wish to live in the house withal. Oh, no man excepted.
Would I were out of the house as honest as they are. Here they come, John.
Oh, John, quoth he, with a pox.
Act 5, Scene 9. 2, Dogrel and Puny and John. Blade and William enter.
Methinks you're not returned, sir, but born to us anew, and I could wish my tongue were not more niggardly than my heart in giving you a welcome.
Thank you, good brother. Truly we have passed through many dangers. My man shall tell you all. I'm old and crazy and forget these things.
Enter Widow.
Ox on it, the widow's come already. Keep him here, John, till I come back. Ah, are you here, sweetheart?
Widow is muted.
Who have you yonder, I pray?
Ah, you should not have seen them yet. They are maskers.
No vagrant players, I hope.
No, they can only tumble and dance upon the rope. You shall see him after dinner. Let's away, sweetheart. The parson stays for us. He has blown his fingers this hour.
Ooh.
Exeunt blade and widow.
I'm glad the captain's gone. Now will I sneak away like one that's stolen a silver spoon.
I'll be your man and follow you.
Who are these, John? May I leave, sir? Would you speak with any here?
The captain, sir, but I'll take some other time to wait on him. My occasions call me now.
Nay, pray, sir, stay. Whom did you say you would speak with all?
The captain, sir, but another time will serve. I have some haste of business.
Whom would he speak with, John? I forget still.
The captain, sir.
Captain? What captain, sir?
Your brother, I suppose he is?
'Tis true indeed. I'd forgotten my brother was a captain. I cry you mercy, sir. He'll be here presently. Are you an Englishman, sir?
Yes, sir.
Where were you born, I pray?
In London, sir. I must leave you.
In London. You are an Englishman, I see. Sir, would you have spoken with me, sir?
No, with your brother, but my business with him requires not haste. Therefore...
You're not in haste, you say? Pray sit down, then. May I crave your name, sir?
My name's not worth your knowledge, sir. But my man's name is John.
I'll be John anymore. I'll be hanged. No, my name's Timothy, sir.
Master John Timothy. Very well, sir. You seem to be a traveller.
We're newly come out of Africa, and therefore have some business that requires us.
Of Africa? Lord, you there now. What country, pray?
Prester John's country. Fare you well, sir. Now,
God forbid. What come from Prester John and we not drink a cup of sack together?
what shall I do? Friend, shall I trouble you to show me where your house of office is?
You'll stay here, master. What's your name, pray?
Timothy, sir.
God's me. It's true indeed, Master John Timothy.
I'll only make water and come to you.
The actual John.
Yes, John.
Sorry, don't know if that was me or the door, sir, is locked. The captain has locked us all in here. If you'll be pleased to stay, sir, till he comes.
At least stay to meet the devil or a sergeant.
Would I were hid like a maggot in a peace cob. We shall be abused, I say.
What makes you quake so, sir?
Nothing, only I have an extreme list to make water. 'Tis nothing else by this one.
My brother would have not got. Would have you not? My brother would not have you gone. It seems. Your name's Master John Timothy, is it?
No, that's my man's name.
Oh, your man's name. 'Tis true. 'Tis very true indeed. But that's your man's name. You'll pardon me, sir.
My friend, do you know the great city called Astavardil, where my namesake Prester John keeps his court?
Know it? Aye, very well. I've lived there a great while. I've cause to know it.
There's a brave castle of 3 miles long.
Aye, and many stately building too.
The noblemen's houses are all built of marble.
They make indeed a glorious show. I've seen them.
It may be so, but to my knowledge, friend, there is no such city there.
Oh, it may be the names are altered since I was there. Here's the captain. I'll sleep behind the hangings.
Act 5, Scene 10, enter to them Blade and Widow.
I like this person well. He has made short work on it. He had appointed sure some meeting at an alehouse. Welcome, wife, welcome home now, but I had 2 brethren which you must know.
We have a muted widow.
Marry, heaven for shield, sir.
Brethren in God, sweetheart, no otherwise. Come hither, Guinea brother, what say you?
This gentleman, brother, has stayed for you here. Pray use him kindly. He's a traveller. Where did you say you travelled, sir?
Ah, yes. How do you, brother?
Your brother? What do you mean?
Why, are not you my brother, Blade, that was taken captive by the Tartars?
You're merrily disposed, sir. Your brother. I taken captive by the Tartars. I understand not your meaning, sir.
What an impudent slave's this! Sirrah monster, didst not thou come with thy man John?
My man John, here's no such fellow here. You see how you're mistaken? Sir, you mean some other man. This is the strangest humor.
Sirrah, dost thou see this fist? Dost thou see this foot? I'll wear these out upon thee!
Hold, pray, sir, hold. I remember now indeed that I was Blade the merchant, but I had quite forgot it. You must pardon me. My memory's very weak.
I like the humor, but I must know, sir, who you are now you have left being my brother.
Who I? Don't you know me? I'm Dogrel the poet, and Puny was my man John. Lord, that you should not know me all this while, not know poet Dogrel. Why, I intended here this merry play to solemnize your nuptial day.
Oh, thank you, Master Dogrel. Can you dance upon the ropes and tumble? Truly, I never knew it before, not I.
Where's that fool Puny? Has he slipped away?
He was wise enough to do so, I'll warrant you.
I'll beat him so that he shall not find a similitude for himself. As for you, Dogrel, because you came off pretty handsomely with the best the last, like an epigram, I may chance to pardon you, but upon this condition, that you make no epithalamiums upon my marriage. Well said, Will. Bravely done.
Pulls off his men's disguises.
Will, if faith thou shalt have 2 laces more to thy livery for doing this so well. I told thee, Will, what 'twas to have acted the I told thee, Will, what 'twas to have acted the bear in Musidorus, and Ralph was a brave John too.
How's this? I plainly see I'm an ass then. 'Twas this damn Puny's fearfulness that spoiled all.
Pox of this coward Dogrel. I thought they were not the right ones.
I see my players had more wit than my poet. Here's something for you to drink. Go in now. This is your cue of exit, and see all things there in a readiness.
No, let the master go first. Follow me, John.
Exeunt William and Rafe.
What, husband? Have you got 'em anything? Indeed, love, you are too lavish.
Was very wittily put off of me. Howsoever.
And we're going to pause. There is a technical scene break, but the action continues. There are lots of lovely bits in that. I love the fact the door's locked. And I think that, again, this is where the physical business element comes in. That, it's turn, door's not opening. We can't get out. Just try the other door. I also love, I don't know, we've definitely had mentions of people needing to urinate in plays before, but I'm not sure we've ever had someone politely say, I need to go and make tinkle. And try to get out of the room that way. It may have appeared elsewhere. I am uncertain, but I just sort of really liked that detail of just call of net, gotta go. The door doesn't open, and just gets worse and worse. And yeah, there's just lots of lovely little details in this, and the way Dogrel tries to turn it around at the end by going, "It was a play." And it's like, yeah, sure it was. Do you see my fist? Would you like to meet my fist? It's lovely, lovely stuff. I think a lot more can be dug out of that with actors and business. Actually, some of it sort of, I was sitting there going, is this working? But actually, I think with physicality and action, I think that would come even more alive. Other thoughts? I've obviously just regaled many. Mark.
Just to kind of get our ducks in a row, we were talking a little bit about the speech headings in this script and like William versus servant. Is the name John here? Is that Ralph as John?
Yes.
Okay.
And
yet William is William as.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It has to be said that there is some tidying up because we've got servants who are continuity servants who have a name, but they're down as servant, and then they are slightly different. We almost got it actually right in the way that it played out, but it wasn't quite. But it wasn't far out. But yes, there is a tidying up of the household that needs to be done. Susan.
I'm sorry, I've forgotten the backstory of the widow. I mean, does she want to marry him?
I think she's content. I don't think there's any ruse going on there. I think she's content.
What happened to her early on? She was there.
She was there.
She was there.
She was there. There was
the ducking stool.
There was a conversation. There were a few conversations, a few backs and forths, but I don't recall really getting a sense of who she was. Really, I don't know if the rest of the room had a better idea. I mean, she's supposed to be a bit puritanical, but I've never noticed anything in her characterization to admit that, frankly, apart from everyone telling me that it's so. Alan, then Sarah.
Isn't Widow actually the landlady of the 3 dissolutes?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
With the pretty daughter, but she does have to be puritanically inclined.
Yes, which again, there's a disconnect. It doesn't quite, but I suppose maybe she's just terribly respectable because she's got so many reprobates living under her. Sarah.
Yeah, I was playing her yesterday, and she didn't strike me as puritanical at all. But then maybe that was just the way I was cold reading the dialogue. She came across as being someone with quite a lot of gusto, actually, and a sort of inclination to be with her gossips. And she was reminiscing about when Tabytha was a little girl, and she came across as quite a merry widow, actually. So I don't know whether there is a bit of a disconnect there, or maybe her daughter takes after her mother. Maybe you could play that whole thing that like they're actually both, neither of them are really inclined to Puritanism, but it's just kind of what they feel they have to do.
Well, I mean, I suppose if you are running, an establishment like that, then open display of propriety is perhaps part of what you actually need to be doing, and to, as part of the game. I think that's definitely something to work up and play around with and understand what's going on there. I mean, it just feels like everyone's pushing against a really open door with those two. So
it's quite a good catch to get Blade.
Yeah, well, I mean, is it a good catch to get Blade?
Protection.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, I suppose yes. So having someone around the house in that sense, that might work. Yeah. Yeah. There's just so many nice lines, so many nice bits. Sorry, Sarah.
Yeah, I put it in the chat, but I'm just wondering if we could just like cut out most of the high stakes stuff. I mean, you'd have to keep the romance going between young Truman and Lucia, because so much of the other stuff kind of whirls around it. But I'm just wondering if we could just cut all of that down to the absolute bones, and just like get rid of all the high stakes stuff and the kind of misogyny and the fact that young Truman goes on and on and on and is so horrible to Lucia, and just kind of have that as just a really basic frame for hanging all this other stuff off, because this is all just hilarious. I'm enjoying it so much more than the main plot.
Yeah, I think just generally, I mean, I think it's the problem of how do you do this is the thing. I think with the point of young Truman is that he is comedically verbose, that he just keeps talking. The problem is that just drains the life out of it because there's so much of it. How do you give that impression without actually having to go through the never-endingness of it all? I think you're right. I think you can. I think we can just take the sting out of that plot line, and with some trims and just spin. You're right. This is where the fun is. This is where the laugh lines are. Okay, let's rattle on, because we paused mid-scene. They've sort of rounded up this disguised plot, but there's a lot of people still on stage. So Blade, Widow, Dogrel, Puny still on stage. Puny's still hiding behind the arras, isn't he? So we'll see what goes on with that. Enter to them Cutter and Tabytha with fiddlers. Those fiddlers. You remember the fiddlers who they kept talking about, fiddling away behind there? With fiddlers before them.
How now? What have we here? Another puppet play? Anything now but brothers, and I'm for 'em. 2. Cutter? What's the matter, poet? Come, what device is this? Like one of yours?
Stay at the door, ye sempiternal squeakers. Come, Queen of Fame.
Lord, I'm so weary with dancing as passers. Yonder's my mother. Oh, mother, what do you think I've been doing today?
Why, what, child?
Nay, nothing. I have only been married a little, and my husband and I has so danced it since.
Brave Tabytha still. Oh, never be angry, widow. You know where marriages are made. And now, Captain, if I turn tapster now, 'twill be happy for you, for I shall be rich enough to trust you, Captain.
God's will, I see, and therefore there's no resisting. What do you mean, son? I hope you'll not turn swaggerer.
'Tis for special reasons, gentle mother. What? Why, now, Dogrel. Master Blade, the merchant, looks as if he were broke. He has turned away his servant, too.
Who's that? Master Dogrel in these players' clothes? Can Master Dogrel dance too, husband?
Prithee, Cutter, what hath exalted Tabytha thus?
What? This good fortune she has got by me. You know what a dark creature she was before. Her soul was in her body, like butter in a hot cake. Now she's as full of spirits as hell itself. My counsel and 2 cups of sack have wrought this miracle.
And Act 5, Scene 12, enter to them the Truman Elder, Truman Younger, and Lucia, once again, veiled.
Well said. You are joined then now. My blessing on you both. Now come into your father, Blade. Nay, daughter Aurelia. Off with your veil now. Whom have you married here?
No, not, sir. She was Aurelia when we went to church.
This is my daughter's maid. Where's the wench? Ho, Aurelia!
Yes, for having whipped off the veil, they find it's Lucia. But in Act 5, Scene 13, enter to them Aurelia.
Here, sir.
Here, sir? Why do you make your husband lead your maid in thus?
My husband, sir? What's that?
Why, huswife is not Master Truman, your husband.
No, by my troth, sir, I thank God.
Oh, these are fine tricks. Delicate, dainty tricks. Sirrah, how durst you, sirrah? And for your minion, marry a chambermaid. Well, Captain, this was your plotting. You said indeed you'd make a Lathron of me. You don't indeed. I thank you, Captain Blade. 'Tis well. Out of my sight, sir. With your minion there, I say, out of my sight. Ha! Am I fooled thus? I shall make some repent it. I hold a groat on't.
Do you hear, Master Truman?
Yes, sir, I do hear. And I will not hear if it pleases me, sir. Somebody shall hear of this, Captain. Captain, you're deceived. This is not a lawful marriage.
Pray, hear me all, for I shall tell those things that will appease your wrath and move your wonder. I've married Truman, and I will enjoy him, and he will love me. I am sure he will, for I am Lucia, the much-injured Lucia.
What?
The habit of a servant I put on, that I might find who 'twas I ought to pardon for all the wrongs done to me. I have found it, cousin, you know I have, and I forgive 'em.
And all my plots are spoiled. Pardon me, cousin, and Master Truman. You have a wife that is as pure and innocent as the thoughts of dying saints? 'Twas I that with the veil deceived you in the prison. It was I who in the veil contracted myself to Puny. Forgive me both. I do confess I've wronged you, but heaven has seen you righted.
Oh, this blessed hour! What shall I say? I know thou art all goodness, but canst thou pardon, Lucia, that great sin, that high and mighty sin which I have done in doubting of thy faith? I fear thou canst not.
I do desire no more than that I may deserve your better opinion, sir, hereafter. And, uncle, for your poison...
Speak no more of it. I do confess it, niece, and shall most willingly surrender up the charge of your estate. It hath pleased heaven to restore me mine own by marriage with this widow.
Oh, to see how things have come about. I thought Dick would not be such a fool as to marry one that he knew not. He knew her well enough, I'll warrant you. How do you, Captain? I was somewhat rash. I'm an old man, alas.
Cutter and Master Dogrel, you that sneak there, your precious witnesses, but no more of that. You have been to blame, Aurelia, but 'tis past. We want your husband here. Where's Puny?
I'll venture out amongst them.
Enter Puny to them.
They ne'er laugh at me. I know I look like a door without hinges. Pox upon you, Dogrel. Are you there?
What, my son John? Do you know this gentlewoman?
You know this piece of gold, sir, which you broke?
Yes, faith, 'tis the same. Thou art my Cynthia wench, my Endymion. We'll be married presently. Oh, for a witty parson to marry us 2 wits.
Slave, 1, 2, 3, and face 4 matches here at once. What accursed fortune's this? There's 3 feasts lost, they'll all dine together.
I will not kiss thee, my little magazine, till I have washed my face. Ha, Master Dogrel, hast thou got no spouse too?
The thrice 3 sisters are my wives.
Well, because thou art a poet, and my Jew's trump and I are wits, thou shalt eat and drink at my pavilion always.
You shall have wine and serge. Do you remember, Dogrel?
Thank you, but I'll ne'er lie for you again.
Come, let's all in to dinner.
Which leaves us with an epilogue.
The play is done, great prince, which needs must fear, though you brought all your father's mercies here, it may offend your highness. And we've now 3 hours done treason here, for aught we know. But powering your grace can above nature give. It can give power to make abortives live, in which our blood wishes should be crossed. 'Tis but the life of one poor weak that's lost. Though it should fall beneath your present scorn, it could not die sooner than it was born.
And thus ends the play. And broadly speaking, they pull most of those threads together in a way that doesn't make me want to kill people, which is quite an achievement considering how horrible some of these people were. But then, it's like suddenly Blade's all this terribly fine person. They're all, and Aurelia comes in. I did all the bad things, and Puny crawls out from behind and it's all everyone goes. A dog barks in the corner and everyone laughs. So there we are, and thus everyone freeze frames while the credits roll. That seems to have turned that corner pretty much as well as you can with this kind of plot. We have discussed this problem, the structural problem, but we are left with this whole thing of Dogrel at the end actually going, I'm not getting married. This play has not provided me with the suitable closure that I expect from this kind of generic convention. And considering he's the poet, he should probably be a bit miffed by that.
No, he's married to the muses.
Oh, of course he is. Yeah, absolutely. Heaven help us all.
My career is my life. Yeah.
But meanwhile, that we've learned Stingo is a beer that has got made with raisins and very good with Christmas pudding. And Coranto is a sort of dance, a sort of fast dance. But it was full of fantastic. And Endymion, is that the same Endymion that sleeps for 100 years to keep his youth?
Mm. And certainly I seem to recall in the play there was an awful lot of sleeping. In fact, I remember when we did the reading of Endymion, and I cast someone as Endymion for a session where Endymion spent the entire time on stage asleep.
I think that was me.
Yeah, it's going, oh, you can play the title part, that'll be good. And it's literally, do I say it? No, actually, sorry, you're on stage, if that helps. You're at the back doing nothing. So I'm actually just trying to figure out, because this is performed before Prince Charles, and I'm just trying to think, Charles II can't have been more than about 12. So I'm just curious, because it's did he have an older brother who didn't survive or something that I'm forgetful of? Did he? Lynn.
Yes, Henry.
No, Charles. He has a child. No, I'm talking because this is.
No,
I'm talking about Charles II.
I'm wrong. I'm getting my generations mixed up. King Charles had an older brother, Henry, and he was sort of the rickety spare. And
So this is performed before Prince Charles in
future Charles II.
The future Charles II, unless there was another Charles that I don't know of who died, and didn't make it, who was older, but I don't recall there being one. So I'm assuming
maybe this is the foundation of all the merry monarching. He was perverted young by this dirty play.
I mean, this is the thing: is you also got to remember that universities at this time, your enrollment could actually be quite young. That wouldn't be that far off initial age of enrollment. That's you could actually get into uni in your teens, before your teens. That's not quite out of it. Sorry, that's just entirely aside. That has nothing to do with the closure of the play. It sort of wraps up all the things in a fairly amiable fashion. It's not often, I say, with this kind of structure that we get to the end and go, can we not kill some of them, please? I mean, I kind of feel we could kill some of them. It'd probably be fine, but it seems to have managed to turn that circle quite well. So that's pleasing. That's pleasing. Alan.
Yeah, interesting that the epilogue actually admits that this took 3 hours.
Yeah. Oh, it had to. It had to take 3 hours. It's a 3-hour play, and that's actually, as we go into our final thoughts, is that question of actually how long would a modern production be? And well, it's going to be 2 hours, maybe 2 and a bit hours, and that means you're going to have to cut about 6,000-7,000 words at least. That's quite a lot of words. And, beyond saying we would quite like to trim some of young Truman's dialogue out and maybe some other bit. But now that we got to the end, the Cutter and Tabytha thing was great because I love the way she turns up. What have you been up to? I've sort of got married a little just a little smidge. And that was a delightful scene. So I really turned around on that plot line. I was saying earlier we could cut it, and I'm now going, oh, and I really like that. It's a late bloomer as a plot, and I think we can sow some seeds visually throughout the play to remind us that it's going on. Dumb show, acting stuff. But yeah, the question of what to cut, how to get it down. But I'd love to start with just working through this scene by scene in detail. I think it would really reward that. Not just in the actual potential of each scene, but just the potential of what it's saying about the society of the time, that educational side of things. And just how do we move the plot, forward and keep it moving and just keep as much of the wit. But we'll have to decide which of the witty bits we think are best, because we're going to have to cut some, and some of them might be quite good. We may have to remove some good stuff to make a good production. And that's something, you have to live with sometimes. Sometimes you have to kill your favorite bits and slice them down. Okay. Any additional thoughts about the ending before? I mean, it was a fairly conventional ending. Stuff happened. Everyone gets largely married in a way we entirely expected. Sarah.
It's just a little thing, but I particularly enjoyed Dogrel's dismay about the fact that they were all getting married at once, and so there wouldn't be 3 feasts, just the one.
Yes.
I love that, especially because there are always a ton of marriages at the end of comedies, and it's like, oh, what? No, this is a really bad thing.
It's not my special day if I'm getting married with other people.
Yeah.
Okay, Lynn.
Yeah, I was just gonna bounce off you, Robbie. I think it makes a big difference that Cutter wants to marry Tabytha. He doesn't just want to seduce her. He like, they're married, and they've told everyone we're married. So he either intended that all along, or he's in it now. So I mean, I think that makes a big difference. He wants an honest marriage, rather than he just wants to seduce and abandon her.
Yeah, I think yeah, well, I think the issue that Cutter had was going, how do I get married to someone who, if they knew who I really was, would reject me? So when he brings on his massive hats and all his spangles and all the rest of it, and she goes, what the hell are you turning into? And he says, try some wine and some dancing, and then we'll see. So it's actually like he admits who he really is. And that becomes, so it's a slightly different plot. It's not it's actually just you would probably not accept me and not say yes, which some consent issues there, but within the context of a comedy, we can probably skate over those. Okay, final thoughts then. Most of you have been here, I think, for a large percentage of the time, if not all of the time. So we've got a fairly good roundup. I'll go to Susan first.
I want
do you
to get up and rehearse this right now. I want to play. This is about all the different actors throwing the ball. You know, it's jouet, it's playful. I know that all of you would make me corpse my head off. We would all try to corpse each other all the way through. And I think it could be, I know I'd be dangerous. I'd be in danger. Mercy, mercy. No, it's brilliant. Please, can we rehearse it soon?
Okay, well, it has to be said, 1640s have done us proud so far, haven't they? They've come off quite well. There are problems in this text that I think we have to change the nature of the disguise. You know, there was that awkward line where he talks about rubbing off the makeup that he's sort of, and you know, okay, it's not quite as terrible as it could be, but it's still loaded with a series of problems that we can just quietly slice out, and that's sort of fine. But yeah, the sort of problematic elements are relatively, on that side of things, are relatively straightforward. The structural stuff to do with the misogyny is perhaps a little more difficult. But I think we can make that. I think we can turn that corner. Donald, any final thoughts?
Well, it is obviously an actor's play. The first day, I did not see the ending coming. I had no idea it was going to be as good-natured as it is. Because, I mean, Blade, for example, he's like something out of George Farquhar. He's one of those Restoration libertines at the beginning, and then he just seems to get, everyone seems to get nicer as they go along. Yeah, it's terrific. And I agree with Susan. There's lots of dangerous lines that you know, you like you say, you could easily corpse on those. They're so good that it's a discovery. Yeah, thank you. It's not an area of period that I know very much about at all. It's a little sort of lost.
And also, kind of, the simpler you say them, the clearer, because the words are so good. You don't need to embellish at all. In fact, you'll get better laughs if you clean and sharp and fast, isn't it? It's like that. And it's a killer. It's a killer for the other actors on stage.
But it's the kind of play where you spend the entire rehearsal period getting the actors no longer to laugh.
Getting laughs out of their system.
Just drill it out of you. Aliki, any final thoughts?
Oh, like Susan and Donald, I really appreciate the meta-theatricality of this. And I just think it's so witty as well. It would be enjoyable to tweak it around and make the length work for us, because there's just so much good stuff.
Yes, I mean it's it is, yeah, we can do it in 2 sessions as the second look, but you know, we'd have to make some severe cuts to get it down to a single session and, you know, a single evening of theatre as it currently stands. But I mean, our process is generally to give it its feet, and, you know, to trust its length, and, you know, and see what happens, and then from that position work backwards to a more manageable thing. So, but I think it's worth doing. Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think, quite honestly, the first third and the last third have both moved at a cracking pace and have both been very entertaining. It was that middle section which was almost tedious in places. I think trimming young Truman back is an interesting challenge as to how you manage to still convey the fact that he's a verbose idiot, while reducing the length considerably.
Well, go on.
Losing the bits which were, quite frankly, yesterday there were occasions when it really was dragging, wasn't it?
I think one of the things about young Truman, I said that about the scene we did today, where it's going, the scene's not about what he's saying. The scene's what's happening around what he's saying. And I don't know if that's true for the earlier scenes. I cannot remember whether the dynamism works for that. And some of it is structurally necessary. But yeah, how do we? Because I think the thing is to remember that he is an idiot. We are supposed to be laughing at him on some level. We're not supposed to be going with his great emotional journey, because he clearly doesn't really. I mean, he's got a very slight journey. from rejecting to realizing the mistake he's made. And it's just a matter of how do we make sure that when he rejects Lucia, that he doesn't come across as just a total asshole at that point, because that's important actually. Because when she returns to him and marries him, there has to be a return, and he does have a repentance arc. He does actually repent in an interesting way in a comic scene with somebody else. I say it's just a matter of making sure it's funny and not tedious, and that's the challenge. Mark, any final thoughts?
Yeah, from what I've seen of the play, it seems like the challenge in like trying to do this show would be how to approach the drama aspects of it and the high stakes stuff involving Lucia, both with young Truman and with Puny, and how she's kind of talked about. And yeah, how you approach that in a play that I didn't read the first third, but sounds like it was mostly like a real good time. And the last third, I really enjoyed yeah, just Blade clearly knowing from the start that these people are faking it, but kind of continuing to test them and see where it goes, and there's a lot of comic potential there. So there's things I really enjoyed. I wish I'd read the first third. So yeah, if there's a second look at some point, that'll be fun to be a part of as well. But yeah, good overall.
Back to Alan.
Just one thought. I believe you said that this did have an afterlife post-restoration.
It did, yes.
Which I appreciate goes beyond the remit that you set for this group. But I just wonder whether that might be worth having a look at to see how they address the issue of cutting it to a reasonable length.
Well, there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee the restoration stage did cut it down to a different length. But I think there's. I don't disagree. I absolutely agree with that as an idea. I mean, I think there is room for some mission creep into the interregnum and the restoration within this sort of exploring setup. It's not saying we'd necessarily stage. I want to know what he does with some of the female characters. Does he beef them up more now that it's for 1661? You know, the theatre's just about been going for a year or so. They haven't yet had the various disasters they're going to have in a few years' time. There's a really interesting question about who. It's not just what happens to the roles; it's who's playing them as well, and that's an interesting question. Because as I say, that real focal point of the Restoration Theatre, that those first few years, before the edges start getting knocked off and the men start taking more control again, is a really interesting time for actors and actresses, and what's going on. So I'd be very interested in setting aside some time to look at that on some level. And I think that's going to be part of our mission creep once we have got through first looks of everything from our period, is that we'll probably keep going with some first look exploring sessions, just to keep us fresh, actually, because it will be a shame when we get to the point where we've done everything, because it is physically possible, a few years' time for us to go, we've done it, and there comes a point where you do it several times, it starts feeling like work, rather than fun. Anyway, Lynn, any final thoughts?
Yeah. So in terms of cutting, Sarah suggested in the chat we cut Truman way down. Yeah, let's do that. And I would be tempted to cut the whole fake poisoning subplot. It's hard to follow. And then some of the let's take some time for some violent misogyny. But yeah, a third of it, that's a challenge. So you'd have to do some filleting in between your big chunky cuts. And another thing that's I would want to work on is, I don't know whether you would do this in the writing or in the rehearsal room, is kind of make the ending seem a little more inevitable. Like the characterization needs to, like Donald says, everyone seems to get less shitty as the play goes on, and we need to sort of somehow signal that these people aren't really as bad as they as they seem. They're really all they've got hearts of gold, or at least a streak of decency somewhere, so that character-wise the ending doesn't seem to come out of nowhere. But yeah, I would really love to run this through into, or it's not good, we can't squeeze it into 2 hours, but do it as a mini series or something, so that we can see how big chunks of it flow, so getting a better sort of intuition about where to cut.
Yeah, and the world. Also, the interesting thing about a play like this is actually different productions. If we can encourage the universe where there are more than one production of this within living memory, is actually different interpretation, different cuts create different plays. There isn't just one route for this play. You could do it uncut. I mean, it's not impossible. 3-hour productions are not unknown in the universe. Or when you start cutting, the decisions you make in the cutting room, whether you want to lean into the drama. There is a version of this where we lean into the darkness at the middle section and play with that more and make this a much less, shall we say, fun play. But it might be quite interesting to see what happens with that. I'll go to Susan.
Well, I think the contrast, exactly. I think you do need a bit of the dark to then this high comedy is the payoff. I mean, never forget the audience. They will get invested in the characters that make them laugh. And I just think that the amount of contrast, I mean, it can't just all be funny.
And it's also another thing of actually just in a universe where we could have such things. I'd love to have a month of previews where we just swap scenes in and out and takes bits in and out and just basically let the audience decide. Because this is the thing about a comedy. The audience do have to laugh and they do have to stay with us. And if that middle section throws them out of the play and they go, no, I'm done, then the play is dead. If we can allow a certain amount of that in to, I say, give it something else and a different, change it up, then you can do that. And that's, I often feel that with comedies, is that we just need to be able to play with the audience to actually decide. We can make a lot of decisions in the rehearsal room and in advance. Until you throw it to the audience, you actually haven't got a sodding clue how the play overall works.
Just be fantastically silly, can't they, Robert?
Yeah. Don't know what you mean. Sarah, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the thing I am going to say is what I quite often say is that, you until you workshop this, until you get it on its feet and try it out with some actors who actually have done it, well, if not necessarily performed it before, but know the story and know what they're doing with the characters, you can't tell how long this is, or more to the point, you can't tell how much you've got to cut, because the dialogue is so quick fire, a lot of it. I really think that it would be, I mean, I'm thinking about a play that I did recently that is 22,000 words long, and we did it in under an hour and 40 minutes because it was just so back and forth. When I say we, I mean me, not Beyond Shakespeare. And I'd be interested to see actually how much you do have to cut. I would really love to have a go at it and cut it down in a way that would please me, i.e. cut out a lot of young Truman and cut out that dreadful misogyny scene, or sort of tweak it in some way and actually see what the running time was. Because I reckon monologues tend to slow things down, and a lot of the speechifying that young Truman does is it's soliloquies. So I think if you cut, and also in terms of the thing of like, how do you get around the idea of keeping the fact that he's this tedious, the comedy of the fact that he's this tedious character who goes on and on. Really, you don't need to give him that many lines. And in fact, like, I mean, Dogrel is hilarious because he didn't really have so much in the second two sessions, but in the first session he kept coming out with all these ridiculous, literally lines of Dogrel. But he only kind of ever needed about 4 maximum, and then Cutter was like, "Can you just stop? Can you
Yes,
just stop with the rhyming? And I think maybe young Truman he could actually be the kind of serious, not really serious, counterpart to Dogrel. He only really needs about 4 lines, as long as they're really over the top and, dramatique. We're going to get the audience is going to get the joke. He doesn't have to go on and on and on, ad nauseum, and he doesn't have to be quite such an asshole either.
Right. Well, we have reached the end of this one. Some things to play with, but a lot of stuff that we can play with, which is always lovely. The 1640s continue to generally throw us material we rather like. It's the end of history nobody ever seems to give a shit about. And always interesting that, and I suspect it's partly because they're just, a lot of the time they're just producing quite efficient entertainment, and that's less interesting for the Academy to study. And so I'm looking forward to doing more from the 1630s as well now, because it's always an area where people generally sort of just dismiss. But hey, we seem to be hitting quite a lot of things we're really got some time for. So hopefully more of that as we run out of history. All that remains, however, for this play is to wind it all down, say thanks to all our wonderful readers for their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. A short ejaculatory